Hello and welcome to the Legendary Ladies podcast. This time around, we're just a duo, cats in Chicago. At what convention is she at, Amy? Is it
She's at a convention.
C2
Look, here's the
E2
thing.
or
Oh, it might be
something?
C2E2. Look, here's the thing. Kat does so many conventions and kicks butt at every single one of them. I'm afraid I've lost count. It's like her Kickstarters. I'm afraid I've lost count. But here's
There's
the
always
thing.
one happening. She's
There's
always
always one
at one
happening.
or about to go to one.
Can I tell like this is a fun little story when I was at WonderCon last week. 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago.
At some point in time.
2 weeks ago.
Last week,
Yeah,
I
2
think.
weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. um I was wandering around Artist Alley, and as I was wandering around, I kept name dropping Cat because I would
Nice.
see these really cool artists who were like queer artists or they were doing queer artwork. And if I noticed any of them were really talented, I'm like, oh, this would make a really good variant cover for one of her things. Or I saw one girl, she literally had Wizard of Oz queer work. And I was like, girl,
Whoa.
let me tell you about my friend. And she got, I don't even remember her name because literally she was so excited. She was actively messaging Kat before we finished our conversation
That's
on Instagram.
amazing. That's
Now,
amazing.
I should clarify. I don't actually know if Kat uses her Instagram regularly enough
She
to
was
have noticed.
She was DMing someone. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, maybe it was Phil." Yeah, in the
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool though. Like I actually had a lot of fun going through Artist Alley being like, oh, that'd be a really cool variant cover, or oh, they would be good for her anthologies. So like that was a lot of fun
I
for
thought you were
me.
gonna
I
say
had a
that
good
you were
time.
like walking through Artist Alley and just name dropping cat. Like, I know
do,
the cat.
do you
Not
guys
to
know Lifeline
brag.
Comics? I'm in a
Oh,
byline
so
of one of their thank yous. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, I gotta thank you. No big deal. No big deal. No applause, please.
I podcast with her, so
We're kind of a big deal. Yeah, so that is where Kat is this week. We had been talking about doing this episode, and Kat's seen this movie, so unfortunately, we're missing out on her perspective. But this week, we are going to be talking about Mickey 17. So that is the movie directed by Bong Joon Ho. That stars Robert Pattinson, and I'm just going to give a quick 2 sentence IMDb log line on the movie, which is a disposable employee is sent on a human expedition to colonize the ice world Niflheim, or Niflheim, I think. After one iteration dies, a new body is regenerated with most of his memories intact. So that gives you like a little bit of a vibe of what the movie is. I think there's like a bit more than that.
now
But so
if that's
yeah.
all the movie had been, I probably would have been able to focus more. I'm really interested to dive into this because I was actually the one who suggested this film a month
Oh,
ago.
that's
Like
right.
right
That's
before it came
right.
out, I was like, guys, I saw this article talking about all these cool films, and this one looks really interesting. And it was the one I was most interested in.
That's
And
right.
so
Yeah,
far,
this was your idea,
I was really
actually.
excited
Yeah.
about this movie. And then before I even started it, I was like, okay, how much time do I need to set aside to watch it? 2 hours and 17 minutes. I go, wow, it really better hold me captive like The Dark Knight Rises. Not The Dark Knight
Mm,
Rises, The Dark Knight. Uh, Spoiler alert, it didn't. But we'll get
yeah.
into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think before we start talking about what we thought about the movie, I the director is very well known. Have you seen any of his other movies, Bong Joon Ho's like other movies? Because I looked at his list, and I've seen just Parasite, but he's also done Snowpiercer. He's done, I don't even know how to, I think it's Okja. I've never seen that one either, but that was 2017. Maybe it was like a Netflix movie. I'm not sure. Oh, that's probably just telling me where I can watch it, not where it was. But he's done a bunch of movies. His biggest one was obviously Parasite, which I believe won the
I think
Best
he got it
Picture.
Best Director or Best Picture. He won a
Best
major
Picture,
award for
Best
that.
Director, something like that a couple of years ago. So I've seen Parasite. I thought that movie was really good. I thought it was really well done. I went in only knowing like the basest of premises of that movie, that it was like a kind of about like poor, like, or wealthy people and poor people. and the twists and turns in that one really blew my mind. So I came in with like a little bit of preconceptions of like, well, maybe it'll be twisty or kind of like Parasite. I thought there'd perhaps be some social commentary, which there was. But Amy, have you seen any of his movies?
I have seen Snowpiercer, which is super, super tight, even if it, I don't honestly remember how long it was, but I distinctly remember that it was, pun deeply
It
intended. It
it
was
looks
like
like
a
it
bullet
was
train.
yeah, it looks like it was 2 hours and 6 minutes.
It didn't
So
feel like that. It goes, 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 but it has that similar vibe of social commentary and the commentary on class differentiation and financial differentiation and the idea of putting certain people on pedestals, whether or not that individual deserves to be there or even has the ability to be there. So I remember finding that movie disturbing in a thoughtful and provocative way. This film was a challenge for me because it had all of the bullet points of a really good social commentary, but I couldn't figure out what we were supposed to learn at the end. What is the moral of the story? What was it supposed to be? Was it supposed to be focused on an indigenous people's story where someone comes in and decides, oh, we're the ones who are supposed to be here? Colonization and imperialism. Was it supposed to be a political satire? It's certainly a political satire on He Who Shall Not Be Named,
mhm.
because Mark Ruffalo it was very clearly doing an impression of a particular leader. Um,
Yeah.
and I showed, you guys all know I take notes and note cards and stuff on as I watch films of just thoughts that go through my little ADHD brain. And the first note I wrote down is, the red hats, I'm triggered, because they
Too
couldn't have
real.
been too real. It couldn't have been more obvious right away that that's what was going on. And so they had, you had that, you had the reality of like, just because something looks like a lesser creature or looks different than you, does that mean that they're actually different than you? Just because they're not from the area, or you don't understand them or be able to speak to them, can you still communicate with them and be, do you misread someone's intentions? And then there's the whole, you know bringing your body back to life, and the commentary about what a soul is, and can you really be the same person you come back to life, because clearly that's not the case. He starts to tell us about, and you can literally see the difference between Mickey 17 and Mickey 18. So there were just too many of those there for me as an audience member to focus on. And yes, they all tell a little bit of the story, but none of them really hit home for me, except maybe the like imperialism aspect, which I think was actually not necessarily a side plot, but I don't know if that was the main story that they were
Yeah.
intending to tell. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know, was there a new story each act? I don't know. It was just so bloated.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you mentioned how Snowpiercer didn't feel like it was 2 hours, and I looked back at, the runtime on Mickey 17 is 2 hours, 17 minutes, well done. But the runtime for Parasite is 2 hours, 12 minutes, and if you had asked me, like, how much longer was, Mickey 17 than Parasite, I would have told you, like, oh, substantially longer. It was a
Mm-hmm.
substantially longer movie, but it's not. It's like 5 minutes
No.
longer. But I just really felt the entire runtime of this
Mm-hmm.
movie, in a way that wasn't complimentary to the movie, unfortunately.
I think the thing that I found the most unnecessary was Kai's character. They bring in this character who she's like the one girl who was at the dinner. She's like,
Oh,
I
you're
am
right. No,
here.
you're right. I was struggling to remember who that was.
Yes, I didn't understand. The only reason I remembered her name is because I like that name. I
Oh, that is
want
a
to
good
name
name.
a character Kai, but I was so frustrated because I kept hoping that she would show up at the end and she would have some like greater purpose, or she'd be behind the scenes. She doesn't even show up in the quote revolution at the end. She is literally the plottiest plot point character that could have been completely cut. Now, if there's a director's edition and she's somehow involved, sure, But you could have cut that whole dinner scene because what did we learn from it? Nothing. You could have cut, because the whole dinner scene is meant to give him and Kai some way to connect, but
That's true,
you don't
yeah.
need that. Or you're supposed to learn to dislike, the blonde hair creepy lady and Mark Ruffalo, but we
But you
already
already
do.
don't like them. Yeah, like, they're already
Like,
creepy. You don't need that
you
more
are,
of that.
and we don't need a further commentary on clearly this is, they're like, wait, you just made Mickey sick just for the purpose of making him sick? And I was like,
It's
yes,
like
we have already established that
this has been
at
well
length.
since established. I like
Yeah.
I would only argue that the only, like, narrative purpose of that scene besides the Kai stuff was, like, having Mickey 18 be really furious at, like, "Well, then what did you do? Like, did you yell at him?" And Mickey 17 is
Mm,
kind of like, "No." Where I think, as a viewer, I was like, "Oh, okay, like, Mickey 18 is kind of like the anger that Mickey 17, like, shoves down. Mickey
mm,
18, like, has all of that and has all of that on the surface." But, like, again, you could have gotten there a bunch of other different ways. I don't think that that dinner scene was really necessary,
it was
or,
so
like,
gross.
and very gross. And I agree with
I
you that the
didn't like
Kai
it.
character, I mean, I guess we did learn that Tony Collette's character loves little sauces and thinks that, like, sauces are, like, the true meaning of life,
Which
but besides
also,
that,
like, was that supposed to be a commentary on something? Because a film like this, you sit there and you look for the commentaries. You look for the things that they're making points of. You can find a lot of them. There's a lot in this film. But I didn't understand the sauce. What was the sauce supposed to be? What was the final scene with her
the
bringing back,
final
was it a
scene
dream with him with like the water, the blood dripping down her wrist?
yeah,
I didn't really understand.
the final scene really threw that scene threw me off a lot. I didn't really
Mhm.
understand what that was about or what that meant or what I was supposed to take from it. I was just very confused. Was it a dream? Was it real? That one really I wasn't really clear on that one either. I wasn't a big
Mhm.
fan of the final scene. And I do think that some of the way that they structured the movie where you're sort of jumping through time made it feel like a little bit, I don't know, disjointed, but also made the movie feel weirdly longer.
Mhm.
We were as we were watching it last night, I was like, "Oh, let's see how much longer the movie has," because I figured that, like, it couldn't have that much longer. And we were like 40 minutes in, and I was like, "Wow, there's still so much of the movie left." But also 40 minutes in, I don't feel like a lot has happened. And
Mhm.
I would say that, like, 40 minutes into this movie, not much has happened. Like, you're just kind of seeing how Mickey 17 got to be in the place that he was in. But it's like, okay, finally, we're sort of joining the present moment of the movie instead of, spending 40 minutes establishing backstory. And it's like, was all of that backstory establishment needed, or could we have gotten to the point, like, a lot faster?
What's interesting is I actually thought that the first act was the strongest act. I liked the aesthetic of that time travel and the, oh, I wake up and here's where I am. Let me tell you how I got here. So you record scratch. You might be wondering
Yeah.
how I ended up here. He goes back, he tells the story, but they take time telling you. You clearly learn how much this weighs on him. So I actually liked that. And I also, one of the notes I wrote down is how much I enjoyed sort of the deglamorization of space travel and what it would be like to leave the earth, because realistically, like, we get so we and this is not really happening. I don't think so in our lifetime,
Yeah. I mean,
but
apparently
yeah.
Katy Perry's going to space, like, next week.
Oh my god. Well, she's probably hopefully gonna have some better food in the future, but like the idea that like this isn't that far in the future, and clearly climate issues have, so there was also commentary on like the dystopian earth,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
funny because we
Definitely
never actually see it.
definitely
Yeah.
environmental issues, like, when they're in that tower, that big
Mm-hmm.
tower signing up to go on these, like, space missions, these colonization missions, you can see what looks like a sandstorm or some sort of
Yeah.
weather event happening outside. Like, the implication is that the we they are abandoning Earth because it is no longer, like, habitable, for
Mm-hmm.
most, like that, like basically things are turning, or like turning bad, and that people are like desperately trying to flee Earth and get onto one of these space missions.
And some of them are going to do that, and others are going to be there with this like Elon Musk Trump-esque orange guy character that they've created in Mark Ruffalo's character,
Yeah.
because it it had a lot of that like resonance of the idea of someone putting a politician on such a high pedestal that it almost becomes, it was very cult like in a way.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but I liked the deglamorization of what it would be to actually live in and travel in space. Yeah, you're going to be eating the same crummy mood or food every day. You're probably going to be hanging out with people who you may not get along with. You're going to get a small bunk space. Your outfit, uniform is going to be the same. And when you get to the new planet, it may not be all it's cracked up to be.
It might be
Um,
bad.
it might be bad. There might be little ice critters that are little things that really just don't want to be messed with. So I did enjoy that commentary. I thought that was really interesting. And I mean, it's totally worth discussing how uniquely Rob Pattinson portrayed this character. Because I
Yeah.
actually I thought something was wrong when I was watching this. I was like, what's up with the audio? Why does his voice sound so weird? I was like, is
Yes.
nobody else worried about this? And I literally snuck my phone. I'm like, what is up with the fucking voice? And I had to Google it and be like, oh, it's him. Because at first I thought maybe each iteration of the Mickey is
Had
like
like a
comes with a like
different.
maybe it's the same body but a different voice and a different person. So I was like, I am so confused right now. But it turns out, it made more sense later on when he had Mickey 18 and he had to very clearly distinguish those two vocally. But it was just a reminder. I ended up reading some articles about how versatile his accents are and how versatile his speaking voice is and how much he can change his intonation. So I thought that his distinctions between 17 and 18 were excellent. His physicality, as much as I just detested that dinner scene, because you know me, I don't like watching any sort of food stuff. The
You're not
only
gonna sign up
acceptable,
for like a mukbang for.
no, the only acceptable food scene in any movie is in The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, when Denethor is eating that goddamn tomato and he crunches it and it splooshes everywhere because it's so well done. That's the only acceptable food scene in any
Ugh.
movie. But
Yeah.
anyway, the Lord of the Rings nerds will get that. But his physicality in that scene, where he's like writhing on the floor and he's just throwing himself over tables, I was like, well done, sir. As an actress who gets exhausted doing a lot of that kind of stuff, good for you.
One of these things that I love is like kind of looking up some stuff like behind the scenes stuff. So I just Googled about the Robert Pattinson Mickey 17 voice.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I love about Robert Pattinson as as an actor, is that he seems to love lying in interviews. So I've seen now 3 different inspirations for what the voice was. So, in one article, it looked like, in an IMDb article, it says that he, wanted to emulate a Jackass star Steve O as the voice, but instead he turned to the animated Nickelodeon show Ren and Stimpy. But then a little bit further down as I was scrolling, I saw a Screen Rant article that said that the inspiration for the accent was Steve Buscemi's character in Fargo. So what was the inspiration?
He's
Was it a little bit of all of them, or does he just tell a different person a different inspiration every time? I don't know. It's part of a Robert Pattinson's unique charm.
he is quirky. Do you remember? God, this was back, I think either 2020 or 2021. It was pre-COVID, but not super pre-COVID. He did like a magazine spread where he took the pictures at home, and they were like he was taking pictures like of his closet or him like stretched out on a couch, and I did side by sides of those, and there was one where he's like eating out of a bowl, and of course I'm
Yes.
also stuck at home, so I did side by sides. I wish that
Oh
I'll
my
have to find
god.
them
I wish you
because
still had those.
I do still have them
I
somewhere.
know the exact interview that you mean because I think it was early COVID, like beginning of lockdown. He
Mm-hmm.
every a lot of Batman fans got mad at him because he said he stopped working out and he was just going to be flabby for Batman. He did not care, which I thought was a great and brave choice. And also he seemed to be kind of like losing his mind a little bit in the interview. I think this is also the interview where he talks about making a
I'm finding
handheld
it.
pasta,
GQ.
like
Yes.
making a handheld pasta with complete sincerity. Like this is something he had spent a lot of time thinking about and drawing up diagrams about how the handheld pasta would work. And it just reminded me of like what the early days of the pandemic were like, where you're like, you know
Oh my
what? I've
god,
got a lot of
bread.
time right now, so I'm gonna make a pasta innovation no one's ever seen.
I'm gonna see if I can find. So it was May 2020, and while we're
Yep.
discussing, I'm gonna see if I can find these side by side photos because I know that I did it. And at the time, I didn't really have much of a social media presence compared to now. And I really, oh my god, I already found one of them. Hold on.
Oh my god, repost,
No,
repost.
I'm gonna put this. Those of you who are listening, you're gonna have to go to our YouTube page to see this because I can present a
Please, yes, please
screen
present.
share of this. So he has these photos
Yes,
of him like
this is so good. I forgot
I
that
think
you had done this, Amy. I forgot. This
oh
is
my
so
god.
good.
Hold on. I have to stop sharing for a second. But man, he is such a unique character. But honestly, I'm so impressed with his physicality in this film. And I hope he got a chance to really show off like his work. And I'm like I hope he got a chance to show off his collaboration, that he got to really work with the director, because I feel like he is a really clever, intuitive actor, and he just happened to get stuck with Twilight, and that's not
I,
his fault.
I think that Twilight has given us some incredible talent, uh, almost accidentally. And I think that yeah, Robert Pattinson and both Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart are very good actors. And I think that Robert
Yeah.
Pattinson sort of I saw something online the other day of somebody describing it as like taking the like Daniel Radcliffe route of like just doing like the weirdest projects you can imagine because why
Mm-hmm.
not after a
Yeah.
giant tent pole. And I loved it as soon as I saw that Robert Pattinson was going to be in it, and I watched a couple minutes of the trailer. Like I knew it was going to be like deeply weird, and it just feels like a movie that would appeal to Robert Pattinson. And I think the performance in this movie that he gives is very good, especially in the fact that you can really tell the difference just in the physicality between and the voice and everything between Mickey 17 and Mickey 18,
Yeah.
which is what happens eventually into the movie. Mickey 17 doesn't die like they expect him to because the little creatures on this ice planet are actually nice and they save him. And but the colonizers thought that he did die, so they spit out Mickey 18. So now there's a multiples situation that needs to be dealt with. Now, the multiples storyline, this is one of those
I forgot about that one too.
this is one of the things where I felt like there was there's like a couple of minutes of like there's a flashback about why multiples are bad, and it involved like a guy who helped create the multiples who became a serial
Yeah.
killer, and I just felt like that wasn't necessarily needed. Like I've already gone on this journey with you that they're
Mm-hmm.
on this planet full of like little alien insect creature, fuzzy alien insect creatures that are cute and scream, and that whatever Mark Ruffalo is doing over in the corner. Like I'm with you this far into the movie. You don't need to give me like a 10-minute explanation on like why in this culture multiples are bad and would be killed on sight. Like you could just say that and I would just be like, okay,
Yeah.
spent
I
time on that. I didn't need the flashback at all, honestly.
I wish that we had been able to spend more time with that, because I was reading a review about this, and it was talking about how there was such a potential for telling the story about how how you would change through each potential iteration. But at the same time, I feel like I've seen that story before, and I'm trying to remember where I've seen it, where like each time you come back, you're just a little bit different. Um, And I'm sure they were doing their best to differentiate this from Altered Carbon. But yeah, that was one of the storylines that maybe we didn't need in there. I think we could have gotten away with just the, oh fuck, this is a problem, we shouldn't have had two of them. Like that
Yeah.
could be a problem. It could be a problem where I just, morally and ethically, that's something they can't get away with. So there's just a lot of things that could have been cut to really make this a tighter film. um
Yeah, if they like wanted to get into the like the morals and the ethics of the, the doubling, I mean, and
mhm
which they do obviously in the movie, but like that's this flashback felt like being like, okay, how has society grappled with this concept? And it was like it just felt like a lot for the movie to take on in addition to everything it was already doing.
yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know. There is the line to your point about how each one is like a little bit different. There's a line that Nasha, who is his girlfriend, says that's like, oh yeah, well Mickey 8 was like this and Mickey, 10 was like that. So you do get the
mhm
impression that she,
yeah.
because she spent so much time with all the different Mickeys, does actually she's not surprised that Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 are a little different because she's like, "Oh yeah, no, all of you have been a little different." Which I thought was interesting and had really, only popped up at that point. But I think that that might also have to do with it being sort of a limited perspective movie from like Mickey 17's perspective. So
Yeah.
we Mickey 17 wouldn't have known that each of the Mickeys was a little bit different. Only like Nasha would have known that.
Yeah, it was just one of those things that lost a little bit of its magic. I think overall that was a lot of it for me, is that if we had focused on just a little bit more of a single core issue, then it would have been easier to follow and track. Because yes, I enjoyed it. I thought that the science fiction aspects were good. I thought that you look at the basics of, oh, well, they're doing a lot of doubling on screen and it's very seamless. Um it's just a bummer that it felt, for lack of a better word, really, really bloated, and it was just a little bit too much.
Yeah, yeah, I really liked it. I think on Letterboxd I gave it like a 4. I I'm notoriously generous with my scores, so that might not mean anything. But I thought it was good. I thought that the concept of it was fun. I thought as a like a sci-fi, it was a very enjoyable one. I thought that all the performances were good. I just felt like it would have been a lot better, a little bit tighter. Like whether that means, the a little bit less long or just maybe a little bit tightened up in the storyline because as we both
Mm-hmm.
were talking about some of the director's other movies, they're equivalent lengths basically to this one, like not that much shorter, but they felt shorter to both of us. And I think that just has to do with like, I think that there was a lot of different concepts, a lot of different storylines, a lot of different, like, sometimes they would zig and zag into different directions and then come back to the main storyline. And you're like, okay, maybe just by tightening up the focus, it would have felt a little bit less bloated almost.
Yeah, I think bloated is kind of the best way to describe it, because it's just so frustrating, because it could have
Mark
been really good.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo was given something. That was a performance.
It was something.
There was a lot of Mark Ruffalo just ate the scenery in every single scene that he was in. He was like, "I'm
He
committed to
sure
whatever bit I'm
did.
doing right here," and I was like, "Oh wow, there's a lot happening on screen right now."
Yeah. It was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah. I did like I liked I feel like the storyline with the aliens on the planet was cute though. I will say I was like I like the little aliens. I like the storyline. I feel like even though it's like a little bit, a little bit cliche, I liked that, they talk to each other and they realize that these like little scary bug aliens on the planet are actually like friendly and they wanted to help. And then that they
Yeah,
could
I liked
communicate
them.
with them. I like that twist. I mean, initially, I think when he doesn't die, if you've watched enough stuff before, you're probably already clocking like, oh, they saved him. Like, they're probably not mean. They're probably not
Yeah.
like scary. So like when
I
that
kind of
becomes a
thought
reveal later on, it's like, yeah,
I was hoping it would be better that like the reason that Mickey 18 came into existence is because Mickey 17 did die, but they have the ability to reincarnate. Like they brought him back to life. So I
Oh.
was hoping that that was the case, because how interesting would it be for the whole story to be like, okay, well, we have this technology that can bring people back to life, and this is like the pinnacle of human society. And then they get to this planet and they're like, look, these creepy bug, ugly, stupid, dumb bug creatures that end up having the ability to reanimate characters. Like I thought they were making copies of themselves. That's what I thought
Ooh.
the whole time. I didn't realize they were babies. I thought that these were just copies of copies of copies, like they were like gosh, I've seen it in a film or a movie before, and it's, I can't think about it in the back of my brain, but like oh, it was in Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. So
Uh,
random. But they had this creature that could basically um take any object and perfectly replicate it. So it became a really highly trafficked creature, because if you can replicate a diamond, you can just get a bunch of diamonds without actually having to have more than just
oh.
one to start with. So I thought that these creatures were just making sentient copies of themselves, so that when the little creepy baby, poor little creeper baby, which I don't want to talk about because I didn't like that part,
R.I.P.
when it died, it was basically part of that collective consciousness dying. And without the other one coming back, it's like a part of yourself is physically missing. And so I thought we were going to have
Ah.
this whole idea of like collectives and copies and reincarnations, and how Mickey 18 is like, yes, but I'm different. And what if I keep bringing myself back and it's not worth it? But then the other creatures that they're working with are like, no, it's wonderful to have copies of yourself. But that didn't happen. So that was a pipe dream created from watching too much Star Trek and the Borg, and apparently Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, which is also an equally frustrating sci-fi film because it had so much good potential.
Is
It
what
just didn't cut it.
who is in that? That why is
Cara
that so
Delevingne.
there you go. Yeah.
And I don't know the actor's name. All I know is that I have never seen a movie cast where the two main characters who are supposed to be in love have the actual least amount of chemistry I've ever seen. Ever. Ever.
I have never heard of this actor Dane DeHaan or
He's in something
DeHaan.
else that I've seen recent. Oh, he
I
was in a Girl on Portrait of a Girl on Fire. No, maybe
I don't
he's in
think
that one
was he?
film with
I was like, were
oh
there men
gosh,
in that?
that's funny.
I was
Were
like, I
there
wasn't
men in
aware that
that?
I wasn't aware there were men in that movie. Perhaps he
That's
was
funny.
apparently in the 2022 The Staircase, not the documentary, like the 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 drama version that was on HBO. I'm looking at his IMDb and I'm not seeing it. He was in a movie called Tulip Fever, if that's a big
Oh,
one for you.
that's the one I'm thinking of.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
I said it
that's it.
to be like, "Oh, yes, you know how Tulip Fever is
Nope,
all of our favorite movies."
that's
It's
it.
Tulip Fever is apparently a romance and melodrama. Is it about is it about the actual tulip fever in
No,
Amsterdam?
it's actually no, but it's, well. So, do you know what tulip fever is?
Yeah,
Like,
it's when in Amsterdam they like all went it's when everybody went crazy about tulips, creating
yeah,
like basically a bubble market, which
yeah.
feels timely at the moment, based around the tulip.
I believe that he got like that the film is about a guy who's hired to do a painting, but the fever is that he falls in love with the act with like the person he's painting.
I the sad thing is that I would have rather this movie have been about the tulip fever. I think that would have been a very much funnier. I feel like there's like a comedy in there somewhere about tulip fever. So it says set against the backdrop of 17th century tulip wars, a married
Yes.
noblewoman who was
Yep. This is
Alicia
exactly what I'm thinking
Vikander had an affair with artist Dane DeHaan and switches identities with her maid to escape the wealthy merchant she married. She and her lover try to raise money together by investing what little they have in the high stakes tulip market.
Yep. That
Uh,
is
uh,
that is
the
it.
the last thing about this movie that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but is very important to me now, personally, is that do you know who else is also in this movie? Is Cara
Oh,
Delevingne.
oh, you
So we
all
made our
this is
way
to say,
all the
what
way back
was
around.
what what I don't even know what the point of this
We were talking
conversation
about
was.
Valerian and how there was no
Oh,
chemistry between her,
because
but
we were talking
apparently
about the copies.
they had
Yeah.
so much fun they made another movie together like the same year.
Oh, that's so good. Anyway, I found all the Rob Pattinson photos. So,
Amazing.
you know what, in the sake of just a really good YouTube video, I'm going to show them to you if I can figure out how
Amazing.
to screen
Present
share.
mode.
Can I screen share on something that is window
I
entire screen?
should be, yeah.
Oh.
You can
Okay, well
share
now
your
you get to
entire
see
screen, you
now
could
you
just
get to
share a
see my
specific screen,
you get to see some real fun
your
documents here.
organizational
Yep, they're not. Oh, that's a headshot. Oh, where'd they go? Where are they?
gorgeous,
Well, now
gorgeous
you're just
headshots.
seeing all of my stuff. No, where is it? Where is it? Downloads. I thought I downloaded it. Well, nope. I need to get out of here right now.
Uh,
how do I unscreen share this?
I can remove
Stop share.
I removed the screen share.
I
It was
don't know where they
there
went.
and then it was gone. I think, if you can find them,
I'll share them.
this would be a good Patreon exclusive of
Or you can go back to my Twitter posts from May of 2020, and there is a whole, in fact, I will put that whole thread, if I can find it again, into the
we can put it into the
the
video
link.
description.
Yep.
Yeah. For
But if you
anybody
want to
who
start
wants to see
wrapping
them.
us
So yeah, closing thoughts about Mickey 17. What did you think?
Overall, I'm bummed because I had had hopes. I don't think I would ever watch this film again. I don't think I would recommend someone to watch this film. I didn't dislike the film. There were things I liked. I think that there were commentaries I wish they had really keyed in on and focused in on. But I guess it's like real life. There's just so much stuff going on. Sometimes you just get a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's fair. I think I probably liked it more than you did. I
mhm.
enjoyed the movie. I thought it was interesting. It was weird. It was wacky. Um, in a sort of a film landscape right now where everything kind of feels like it's made for IP because it's, somebody will
That's
go
fair.
see it based on a
Well,
comic book or a
this is
video
based off a
game. This
book.
was based off of a novel, which, isn't which a lot of movies
Is at least
were,
better.
are, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's based on some form of IP, but it's like, light IP.
Yeah.
It was nice to see something really weird, again, and I know it didn't do well in the theaters, but I like that, directors can with the vision can take a swing and make something really, really strange, and that they'll still, and that Robert Pattinson will always want to be in those. And so I thought, it was fun. Did it work 100% for me? Not really. I thought it could have been a lot tighter. I thought the
Yeah.
storytelling could have been tighter, or or the time of the movie could have been tighter. It could have been a little shorter. But I thought Robert Pattinson did a great job. I thought all the acting was really good,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. So 4 stars, but not quite not a perfect film by any means, but I think an enjoyable one. Yeah, I also would recommend it with a caveat to someone. I'd be like, "How much do you like weird movies?" And then I
And
would
how
maybe
much
tell them
time do
about
you
it.
have?
And how much time do you have? Because it's weird and it's a little lengthy. Uh, so I think that's going to wrap up our discussion on Mickey 17. But as always, you can always let us know what you thought in the comments of this YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube, or you can email us at thelegendaryladies@gmail.com. As always, you should be following us on YouTube. We're the Legendary Ladies over there. You can also find us on Instagram, where we're the Legendary Ladies, and Twitter, where we're legends_podcast. Amy, anything fun coming up for you?
You know what? By the time this comes out, it will already have passed. There is a well, maybe it hasn't. There is a reading that I'm doing is part of a webinar new play presentation this coming
Oh,
Saturday. And I will put the link in for the webinar in the chat. But I don't know if we're going to have this episode up in time. But I don't know if I have anything to talk about yet for the summer. So we shall
ooh,
see. But you guys can find me on
TBD.
Twitter and Instagram. Amy_hip. That's Amy_HYP. I don't actually post to Twitter anymore, so just Instagram. What about you, Morgan?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Although Twitter, again, I don't really post there anymore, but I do scroll a lot, unfortunately, and I'm trying to stop. At Mojotastic, you can also find me as a co-host on the Supergirl. I was about to say Legendary Ladies on. I'm plugging the wrong shows on Supergirl Radio. Where I'm used to saying Legendary Ladies. On Supergirl Radio, where we're currently going through All Star Superman, which is the inspiration for the upcoming James Gunn Superman movie. So, or one of the inspirations. So we're having a fun time going through that old comic book because it's kind of a Superman classic at this point. But I also just recently did a guest spot on 8181, which is a podcast from the guys who did Bros Who Watch PLL2, if we have any Pretty Little Liars fans here. But basically, they're going through music videos from the start of MTV to about,
That's cool.
2001. Which is such a fun concept, and it was really fun to like. They told me I could pick whatever music video I wanted to. So I spent like a whole afternoon, really like literally just watching music videos from like the 80s and 90s. It was honestly such a great day. Just got pretending that 2025 didn't exist, and I was back in like 97. It was a great time. So I ultimately chose Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls, or it's just
Oh.
Waterfalls by TLC,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a fun video to go back and look at, because at the time it was like really like it was moving music videos for it. It cost them $1 million to make this music video, and when you see the effects, they're incredible by today's standards. Just so funny because they turn into like water people and they dance around, which was like very impressive. Like, whenever this came out, I think it was like 95 or 99 or whatever effects, but like by today's standards, they don't hold up quite so well. But
Yeah.
also, fun fact, because I like did a TLC deep dive before going on this podcast.
Uh-huh.
But I did it, I waited to the last minute and like did it all in like one day. So for 24 hours, I was like the person who knew so much about TLC. But apparently
Oh.
they filmed the water portions of that video in the same like stage where they filmed Jaws,
Oh, were there
which is
sharks?
nuts. Yeah, yeah, which is very funny.
I love the
So,
deep dives like that though. That's always fun to like be like, I discovered something kind of cool.
and now I'm like, I now have a new fun fact to pull out, if anybody asks me anything about
You're gonna get
TLC.
it on Cranium one day.
Yeah, it's gonna be my
Mm-hmm.
as Kat and I talked about in one of the last episodes, my Slumdog Millionaire fact. I have like a new one now. I've accumulated so many more little tidbits now that I'm gonna be able to use in the future. So if you want to check that out, you should go and check out that episode of 8181. But I think that's gonna do it for us this time around. And until next time, stay legendary.